We're here with our friend Eric Trump. Welcome, Eric Trump. Now, Eric, you've been sitting in this so-called courtroom in Manhattan every day, watching what's taking place, what they're doing to your father. You're watching this so-called trial. This is the first time. It won't be the last time, but this is particularly disgusting, isn't it?
Listen, Mark, it's the worst I've ever seen, but nothing surprises me with this administration anymore. I mean, the second my father came down that escalator, they started targeting our family like you've never seen before. 2 days ago, I received my 110th subpoena in 7-year period of time. I'm a guy that's never gotten so much as a traffic ticket in my life. 110 subpoenas from Congress, from the Senate, from every DA, every AG around the country. This is a guy who says, prayers to his kids every night at 9:30 when he, or 9 o'clock when he puts them to bed, and says Pledge of Allegiance to them. Never got so much as a traffic ticket, and they have come after us ruthlessly. But this is all part of their game plan. You talk about it every single night, Mark. I mean, they went after him. They impeached him the first time. They impeached him the second time. They made up dirty dossiers. They had the Russia hoax. They went after Supreme Court justices. More recently, they tried to strip him off the ballots in Colorado. They tried to strip him off the ballots in Maine. They've sent every DA, every AG against him. They have every weaponized civil attorney in the country who have come out and said, the best way to get Trump is just to sue him. Even if there's no merits to the suit, just sue him. Just, tie him up, take all his money, make him spend hundreds of millions of dollars on legal fees, distract him, put him in courtrooms all day long so he can't go out and campaign, make up salacious nonsense, which is what you saw a lot of this week, make up stories that have absolutely nothing to do with the case at hand, but drag him through the mud, smear him, try and take apart his family, try and turn his family against one another. And honestly, they've done the exact opposite. They've made a man stronger. And I have to say, as nasty as this trial is, I could not be more proud to stand next to him, to sit right behind him in that pew. The guy is the toughest guy I've ever met in my entire life. He's got backbone unlike anything I've ever seen in my life. And Mark, most people would have withered about 5 minutes into this whole thing. 99% of the Republicans, I might even say 100% of the Republicans that my father ran against, they would have withered within about 2 seconds of the start of the attacks. That's how vicious and ruthless and evil the Democrats have been. And my father just never stops. He literally leaves the courtroom and he goes to bodegas in Harlem to rally the African American support. The guy is just a remarkable guy. He's getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning so he can go out and meet construction workers, union workers at 6 o'clock in front of the biggest construction jobs in New York to rally their support. I mean, the guy is undeterred, and he is he's remarkable. He's a remarkable creature and person, and I'm proud that he's my father.
And you're a wonderful son to your father, sitting there in that courtroom. I'm sure it's extraordinarily painful. Your wife is also trying to save the country as head of the RNC and is apparently doing a really quite fabulous job. And but when you sit in that courtroom in particular, as you've watched the rest of this and what's been done to you and your family, are you losing faith in the system, that the system has been devoured by these evil individuals who will do anything for power?
Well, it's kind of dark to say, Mark, but I lost faith in the system a long time ago. I mean, I lost faith in the system when I got a call from the Washington Post and the New York Times, simultaneously saying, we hear you have secret servers, Eric, in the basement of Trump Tower that communicate directly with the Kremlin. And I literally started laughing. I go, this must be a prank, right? I mean, secret servers in Trump Tower. First of all, you don't put servers in basements because basements flood. Let's start there. Second of all, we're largely a cloud-based, company. So, that also kind of dispels your myth. But that communicates with the Kremlin. I don't know anybody in Russia, and trust me, we're not communicating with the Kremlin. And in about 3.5 seconds, the FBI figured out that this whole narrative was junk, but it was the basis for the entire Russia narrative, right? You had Michael Sussman go in, tell effectively the FBI that, he had inside information. He went out and, reportedly leaked it to the New York Times and the Washington Post, the two papers that hate us the most. I get the call about 4 minutes later. They called the FBI saying, are you investigating the Trump organization? Based on the fact that they had this tip-off, they couldn't say no. And, a 3-year scandal that pit the two largest nuclear powers in the world against each other was born, all because Hillary Clinton wanted to get an extra 3 votes. This is the life that we've lived over the last 7 years, and nothing surprises me anymore. If you could go back 8 years, Mark, and you would have said that the institutions in the United States were as damn corrupt as they were, I would have never believed you. There's no way. I would have said that you're wearing a tinfoil hat. And as a guy who has never worn a tinfoil hat, like I just wouldn't have believed it, but I've seen it firsthand. And the Democrats have done everything they can to weaponize every institution in this country. They've weaponized education. They've weaponized, that's lower and higher. And thankfully, you had great parents in Loudoun County that revolted against this nonsense. They've weaponized the military. You have, Milley every day, instead of trying to win wars like Afghanistan, which was so embarrassing. You have him going out and testifying in front of Congress that he wants to understand what, white rage looks like, and renaming military bases at the cost of hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, they've weaponized the system. They weaponized healthcare. You saw that during, COVID. I mean, they've weaponized the DOJ. Look at, Michael Colangelo. He's the head of the DOJ. He's a third in command of the DOJ in Washington, D.C., that they sent to New York to prosecute every single Donald Trump case in New York. He's literally working in the DA's office in New York trying to get my father. They've weaponized the hell out of the system. They've weaponized the hell out of judges in the system. Look at the civil system. We've never missed a payment as a company. We've never defaulted on a loan. We had the biggest bankers in the world saying that we're the best clients that they've ever had. And we got fined $560 million for what? For being a perfect borrower, being a perfect company, never being in default, never missing a payment during COVID, never doing a damn thing wrong. They've weaponized the entire system. And so, did I think it could ever be like this? No. Am I just embarrassed by the system and what it's become under, people who just want to destroy this country? It's horrible. And I think it's, Mark, why we fight as hard as we do. And let me just finish by saying, I know I'm being long-winded, but, these guys will pass up no opportunity for corruption. I mean, they tried to pull my father off the ballot in Colorado. They tried to pull him off the ballot in Maine. When it didn't look like they were going to have a, great midterms, they flooded the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. They tried to bring down the price of gas. I mean, where do you want me to stop? Look at the student loan bailouts right now.
Eric Trump, your dad runs for president, and they're trying to destroy him in every respect, and your family. He's lost more money. He's lost a lot as a result of running for president. Maybe he's lost years in his life, given what's taking place here. Biden runs for office. He becomes rich. He becomes powerful. He will do anything to hold on to power, including try and put your father in prison. Does it ever cross your mind what's happening here in that respect? And also, if your dad hadn't decided to run, that none of this would be happening, and that because he's running and because they fear him, because they saw what he could do in 4 years, that's why they feel they have to destroy them. I guess what I'm saying is Donald Trump loves America. Joe Biden uses America. Is that fair?
It's absolutely fair. I mean, we got out of business the second my father got into office, right? Hunter Biden got into business the second his father got into office. There's a stark contrast, right? I mean, I don't see any of them donating their salaries. I don't see any of them donating all the profits from their business from any governmental states or any foreign profits, back to the U.S. Treasury. I wrote those checks every single year. We stopped doing every single deal. Yet you see Hunter Biden who goes out. And then, by the way, they attacked us ruthlessly. We'd sell a martini at one of our hotels. Somebody would walk in off the street. We'd sell a martini at one of our hotels to somebody from overseas, and they'd bring us to the Supreme Court saying, we violated the emoluments clause of the U.S. Constitution. Yet you have a kid out there who takes drugs, who does, glorified finger painting, and he sells it to all sorts of people for, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars because, art's subjective in terms of value as opposed to real estate, which is not. This is the games that these corrupt people play. And you're right. My father has lost billions of dollars based on this endeavor, and he doesn't give a damn because he wants to save this country. I mean, this country's given him everything. It's given our family absolutely everything, and he just doesn't care. If I could break out the amount of legal fees that we've spent just defending against absolute nonsense, 110 subpoenas that I talked to you about a second ago, 110 subpoenas I've gotten in the last 7 years. It's hundreds of millions of dollars of legal fees, and we don't give a damn. We have to go out and we have to fight this Marxist nature, this insanity that you see every single day. But, it's really interesting. I just saw a video of Erin Burnett from CNN, and she's, lovey-dovey with, she actually posted it with Biden, and she's holding his hand. And I remember that very same person, right? That very same person used to be the exact same way with myself, with my father, until the day that my father went down that escalator and ran as a Republican, and you couldn't even recognize the person anymore. I mean, the visceral hatred toward you the second that he announced who he was. And he was like that with everybody. I mean, he was so respected and so admired, and everybody showed up to his wedding, and everybody kissed his butt, and everybody loved the family, and they sent the holiday baskets and everything else, until he said he was a Republican, in which case every one of them ran away. And, the weaponization is real. You talk about it all the time, but I saw it. I saw it firsthand. It is deadly real, and it's terribly sad.
Your dad, I feel like I know him. I try not to bother him, but from time to time we do get together. He's a gentleman. He treats people with respect. He's proud of what he's done. He likes to show you around Mar-a-Lago and other things. He's just a gentleman. He really is a gentleman. He's a kind person. He helps people. He doesn't even talk about it. This entire side of him, the media know this side of him, as you were just explaining. Yep. But they'd rather turn him into Adolf Hitler and into Stalin and all the rest of it. And I'm going to tell you why, Eric Trump. Because he's the most effective president in my lifetime. Because he's trying to reverse what they're doing to our country. Because he believes, as you say, in the country. He's a patriot. He's not a philosophical conservative, but he's a conservative by common sense, by practice, by life experiences. And so they have to destroy him because people who normally don't back the GOP are conservatives, many of whom are blue-collar workers, union and non-union, minorities. They're taking a look at him, or they're voting for him. They say, wait a minute, this guy represents me. I used to call him the blue-collar billionaire, because in many respects, he is the blue-collar billionaire. And that cuts right into their base, doesn't it?
There's no question. He's the first politician in the history of this country that couldn't be bought, couldn't be stolen, couldn't be manipulated. You know why? Because he didn't need them. In fact, I think it started day one where he goes, I'm not taking any lobbyist money. I'm going to self-fund my campaign. I don't need any of you people. And that rubbed everybody the wrong way. And I think the reason I've lost faith in so many politicians, and by the way, Mark, this is on both sides of the aisle, I kind of hate to say it, is, so many politicians, I hear it all the time, I'm going to go into Washington, D.C., and I'm going to make a difference. And sometimes I laugh saying, no, you're not, because the second you go in there, if you're adverse to Jeff Bezos, guess what? You're going to be on the front page of the Washington Post, and they're going to be putting arrows in you from every single direction, and you won't be able to withstand. You won't be able to withstand what Donald Trump put up with what our family has put up with, right? You don't have the backbone, you don't have the voice, you don't have the greatest political movement that's ever been created in the history of this country, and you certainly don't have the checkbook in order to write millions and millions and millions of dollars of checks every single week to defend yourself from the ruthless attacks. And you're going to cave like every single other politician that goes to Washington, D.C. Or, Mark, alternatively, you're going to get enamored by the white marble walls in a Capitol, and you're going to realize that you're getting wined and dined by every lobbyist every single night. And you're going to realize that that's an awfully good lifestyle and you want to keep it. And so you're not going to go against the grain. And that's what my father's fought every single day. I mean, every single day, that's what he fights against. He fights against the special interests that can't buy him, that can't own him. They own everybody else. They couldn't own him. Look, I mean, day one, he fought against the Koch brothers, right? I mean, everybody else would be lining up at their doors to kiss their feet. He didn't give a damn about the Koch brothers. They were his members, and he still didn't give a damn, meaning at golf clubs that we have, and he still didn't give a damn about them. Like, he wanted to do what was right for the American people, and he saw a country that was going to hell, making a lot of really bad decisions, a country that was wed to the military might and just unthinkable spending and bad decisions, and he tried to do the right thing at every single turn, and frankly, that hurt a lot of people's feelings in Washington, D.C. They did not like that, and it's one of the reasons. I mean, he flicked that to hornet's nest over and over and over. He would go against the fake news. He'd call them the fake news. He'd come out against these people. And that hornet's nest revolted. That's what happened. They got awfully mad. I mean, how dare anybody question their power and their might and who they are and what they've kind of, the cocoon that they formed from themselves that's only benefited them, not the American people. They call the American people, they call half the states the flyover states. They don't give a damn about these states. And it wasn't until Donald Trump came in and started flicking that hornet's nest that it revolted the way it did. And you know what? It's the unvarnished honesty of Donald Trump that made the American people really understand what this system is that we have in this country. And I think it will actually be his greatest legacy, which is uncovering the true swamp. I mean, he truly defined what the swamp really is that none of us fully saw until he got behind that desk.
Mm-hmm. It must be very frustrating or worse to see people who betray him, people he brings into his closest circles, people who he brings out of the wilderness to be advisors, to provide him with information. And they seem to believe that if Donald Trump doesn't do what they tell him to do, or doesn't follow their advice, or whatever, he resign with a lot of noise, a lot of and activity, and a lot of grifting and book writing and all the rest of it. It's really amazing, the level of disloyalty, is it not?
Yeah, it is. And listen, half of it's, again, that machine, all right? It's Random House. It's one of these companies. You know, you come out, you write a book. We're going to give you a massive advance on your book, but you're going to have to say some things. Well, I don't want to say those things. Well, I'm so sorry. We can't give you the advance on your book. I mean, there's a lot of goading of people that goes in. And then, frankly, Mark, I hate to say this, but there's also a lot of spineless people out there. I mean, some of the people that you would have thought would have had the most backbone, the most spine, are the biggest cowards. And you better believe that, you know, we had this meeting. My father called us all up to his office to tell us that he's running for president. He goes, we're going to figure out who our real friends are, and we're going to do so quickly. And we're going to get hit in ways that you couldn't even imagine. And, you know, I chose to stand on that stage day one, and I will be on that stage until the day I'm dead or they kill me. You know, I've picked my team, and I truly, truly believe, but, you know, money corrupts people. So oftentimes there's financial incentive for them to go the opposite way. And, you know, so often they think that's the right, you know, move. And I can't tell you how many times we've been, you know, disappointed. And these are the people that you would never expect to disappoint. And on the flip side, I can't tell you how many courageous people there were that oftentimes didn't have financial resources that you would have never guessed would have been there, who have just been solid as rocks. And, you know, it's kind of a great lesson in humanity, if you want to know the truth.
And to that point, your father has an enormously loyal following of great patriots, Americans of all walks of life. And wherever I go, and I don't go too far, Eric, I'm kind of a loner, but wherever I go, like to a diner or whatever, they always say to me, he's going to win, isn't he? We got it. He's got to win, right? He's going to win. And I'm talking to waiters and waitresses. I'm talking to people who put food on the shelves at the grocery store. I'm talking to millionaires from time to time. They all say the same thing. We've got to make sure he wins. And I say the same thing to them, which is, well, what are you going to do about it? Talking to me doesn't get it done. Totally. So what do you want to tell the millions and millions of Americans out there about this November and what they have to do?
Well, listen, Mark, I hear it all the time as well. People come up to me, and what brings kind of tears to my eyes sometimes is people come up and they say, we love you. We're sorry, but we love you and thank you for doing what you're doing. And I think we're going to have the greatest victory in the history of the country. And on November 5th, I really do. The country's set up. They see weakness. This guy is not bringing us to the promised land. He's not even bringing us close. In fact, he's destroying the promised land. He's destroying the American dream. He's destroying red, white, and blue and what we believe in as patriots and as Americans, and, you know, people that love freedom and love our Constitution and love God and love the Second Amendment, love so many other things, you know. I mean, people that just want to be left the hell alone to prosper as Americans should be able to prosper. And that's all under siege right now. We're not going to allow it to happen. And we're going to have the greatest victory. And I say to those people, you know, stand up, go out. I mean, first of all, vote, but that's so cliche, but stand up. And what's interesting is in 2016, a lot of people were silent. You know, they'd come up to me and they would whisper, hey, you know, we're going to vote for your dad. We're totally behind him. People aren't whispering anymore, Mark, and there's a stark contrast to the way people are proud to stand up. People are proud to wear that hat. You see every single boat, and they're, you know, going down various places, and they're all flying the Trump flags. You have people with every single sticker on the back of their cars. I mean, this is a movement unlike anything before, and it's a movement to save our country. And he's the right guy. And the more they torture him and the more they torment him, the stronger he becomes. The more times that they drag him into these kangaroo courts, the stronger the man becomes in the polls, and just as a human. And I promise you, I'm going to spend every second of every single day between now and November fighting. My wife is an absolute warrior in what she's doing and what she's done at the RNC. She fired 3/4 of the RNC because, you know, they weren't on the team, and what she's done over there and the political machine that she's creating with a couple other people is going to be tremendous. And my father, he's the greatest warrior I've ever met. The guy is remarkable, and I'm so proud to call him my father. I'm so, you know, proud of him in general. We're going to have an amazing day, and we're going to save this country. And and I just can't wait. I mean, it's truly going to be vindication for the absolute hell that they've put us through.
Eric Trump will be on my show Saturday, Life, Liberty, and Levin. We look forward to it, Eric. God bless. Your best, our best to your dad, please, from millions and millions of people who listen to this program.
Love being on, Mark. See you Saturday.
All right. Be well.